When a police officer looks at you and says, "Just tell me your side," almost every person starts talking. Because it sounds fair. It sounds like the officer wants to hear you out before forming a judgment. It sounds like the reasonable, cooperative thing to do when you have nothing to hide and you want the situation resolved quickly. Here is what almost nobody knows. Just tell me your side is not an offer of fairness. It is one of the most effective evidence-gathering techniques used at the roadside and at the scene of any incident. The word just makes it sound small. The word side makes it sound balanced. Neither of those words changes what happens to everything you say next. Your side of the story does not go in your file as your side. It goes in as a documented statement. Every detail becomes material. Every timeline you establish becomes a reference point. Every name you mention becomes a lead. And any part of your account that later contradicts something you say elsewhere becomes a credibility problem your attorney will have to manage. You did not tell your side. You handed the investigation its next chapter. Today I am going to show you exactly what is happening when that phrase lands, why it works so effectively on honest people, and the exact words you say instead, words that close the technique down completely and cannot be used against you in any court in this country. Hit subscribe right now because this channel exists to give you the knowledge that protects you before you need it. Share this with one person before this video ends, someone who would hear, "Just tell me your side," and start talking because fairness seemed like the only reasonable response. Here is the reality most people are never taught. During any police encounter, you have the right to remain silent. The Fifth Amendment protects you from being compelled to be a witness against yourself. This protection does not activate only when you are arrested. It applies the moment any communication you produce could be used against you in a legal proceeding. Telling your side, your movements, your reasoning, your account of what you saw and did is exactly the kind of self-produced information the Fifth Amendment exists to protect. The fact that the request sounds casual does not change what the information becomes once it exists. The Supreme Court reinforced this in Salinas versus Texas in 2013. The right to silence must be affirmatively invoked. Staying quiet is not enough. You must say the words. You must put the invocation on the record. Which means the response to "just tell me your side" is not silence. It is a specific sentence that invokes your right clearly, out loud, on the body cam, before your account has a chance to enter the record. Now here is why this framing bypasses your guard so effectively. If an officer said, "We are investigating a potential crime and I need you to produce a formal statement," most people would immediately think about attorneys. "Just tell me your side" removes all of that. It sounds like a conversation between two people trying to sort something out. It sounds like the officer is on your level. It sounds like talking will help, not hurt. Honest people are the most vulnerable to this technique. People with nothing to hide talk freely because they believe their honesty will protect them. What they do not realize is that honesty without legal guidance is not protection, it is exposure. Not because they have done something wrong, but because unguided accounts contain details that can be misread, taken out of context, or used to build narratives the speaker never intended. Here is what the bad way looks like. Officer says, "Just tell me your side." Driver explains, describes the sequence of events, mentions where they were coming from, describes what the other person did, adds context they think is helpful. The officer nods and takes notes. The driver feels heard. They feel like cooperation moved the situation forward. 2 months later, their attorney reviews the officer's report. The report contains a timeline placing the driver at the scene earlier than they claimed, a description of their own actions open to a different interpretation, and a detail about a prior interaction that opened a new line of inquiry. Every element came directly from the driver's own voluntary account. They provided all of it because "just tell me your side" sounded like an invitation, not a collection mechanism. Here is what the good way looks like. Officer says, "Just tell me your side." Before a single word of the account leaves the driver's mouth, they say this calmly and clearly. "I appreciate that, officer. I would prefer not to answer questions without an attorney present." That is the complete response. 13 words, calm voice, no elaboration after it. Those 13 words invoke the Fifth and Sixth Amendment protections simultaneously. They stop the information flow without confrontation. They put the invocation on the record before the account exists. And they do not create hostility or give the impression of guilt. They simply close the technique down with a legally protected response. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever been asked to tell your side and started talking because it seemed like the cooperative thing to do? Yes or no? I want to know how many people this technique has worked on without anyone ever realizing it was a technique. If you are still here, hit the like button because what comes next is what most people miss. The follow-up moves officers use when the first invitation does not produce an account. Here is what happens after you say those 13 words. The first follow-up is the fairness appeal. The officer says, "I just want to make sure I have your perspective before I write this up." You say the same 13 words again. Then silence. The fairness appeal makes you feel that declining is unfair to yourself. It is not. An attorney can give your side in the right context at the right time, with full knowledge of what the investigation actually involves. The second follow-up is the consequence implication. The officer says, "If I only hear one side, this is going to go a certain way." You say, "I understand your position, officer. I am not refusing to cooperate. I am invoking my right to counsel before I answer any questions." Then silence. The third is the simplification move. The officer says, "I am not asking you to make a statement, just tell me in plain terms what happened." The response does not change. 13 words. Then silence. It does not matter how casual the framing is. Your account becomes the same documented material regardless of the packaging the request arrived in. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is 29 years old, lives in North Carolina, and was involved in a roadside dispute that an officer was called to investigate. The officer said he had heard the other party's account and just wanted to hear Marcus's side for the full picture. Marcus told his side. He described the dispute, mentioned it was not the first time he had encountered the other party, described the specific words exchanged, and included details about his own emotional state during the incident. He gave a complete account because complete felt honest, and honest felt protective. His attorney reviewed the situation and pointed to 3 specific elements in Marcus's voluntary account that had complicated their position. The reference to prior encounters established a history the investigation had not previously documented. The specific words described could be characterized differently than Marcus intended, and his account of his own emotional state was used to support a characterization of his behavior he did not recognize. None of it was a lie. All of it was Marcus's honest account used in ways Marcus never anticipated. His attorney told him what I am telling you now. Your honesty was never the problem. Giving your honest account without knowing what the investigation already had and what details would matter most was the problem. That is exactly what an attorney is for. Marcus now knows the 13 words. After this video, so do you. 2 legal foundations make everything in this video exact. The Fifth Amendment protects you from being compelled to be a witness against yourself. Telling your side, your actions, your reasoning, your account of events is testimony. It is self-produced information that can be used against you. The protection applies before arrest, at the scene, in the moment the request is made. The Sixth Amendment gives you the right to counsel before you produce any account that enters an official record. An attorney knows what the investigation involves, what evidence already exists, and what your account should and should not include. Invoking counsel is not obstruction. It is the exercise of a right the Constitution already gave you. When you know these 2 amendments, just tell me your side stops sounding like an invitation and starts being a question about whether you know you do not have to answer it alone. Here is the complete recap. Just tell me your side is an evidence-gathering technique, not an offer of fairness. Your account becomes a documented statement the moment it leaves your mouth. Unguided honesty without legal counsel is exposure, not protection. The moment an officer says, "Just tell me your side," before a single word of your account exists, you say, "I appreciate that, officer. I would prefer not to answer questions without an attorney present." 13 words. Calm, clear. Then silence. If the request is reframed as a fairness appeal, a consequence implication, or a simplification, the response does not change. Your side belongs in the right context, at the right time, with someone in your corner who knows what the other side already has. Think about one person in your life right now, someone honest and cooperative who would hear, "Just tell me your side," and immediately start talking. Share this video with them today, not later, right now before you close this tab. The 13 words you just learned take 5 seconds to say and keep an honest person's account out of a file until someone is there to help them give it safely. Next week, I am covering what happens when a field sobriety refusal form gets handed to you, a document that appears at DUI stops that most drivers sign without understanding what they are actually acknowledging. Subscribe so you catch it the day it drops. Hit the like button if those 13 words just changed how you will handle the next time an officer frames an evidence request as an offer of fairness. Drop a comment telling me whether you knew before today that "just tell me your side and give me a formal statement" are the same thing with different packaging. Know your rights, use them, stay safe.